Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town for this Thursday, October the 7th. I'm Gary Stevens. First Thursday of the month, this time frame, we set aside to talk law enforcement with Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker. He joins us via the Zoom connection from his office in Allegan. Frank, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary.
Glad you are with us. Before we talk a little bit about October being National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I do want to touch upon, since we have this opportunity, Frank, about dealing with trick-or-treaters and Halloween safety. Between now and the next time we chat, it will be Halloween. It's a Sunday. That means maybe not as many trick-or-treaters on the actual day itself, but that Friday and Saturday might be a little bit of awareness for the little ghosts and goblins.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we're always excited for the kids that hopefully the weather's nice. They have a great opportunity to be out. And obviously last year was a struggle for them. But we do want them to enjoy the holiday of trick-or-treating and Halloween, but we also want to make sure they're safe. So we just want to remind people to slow down that weekend. Don't just assume because it's on Sunday that they may not be out Friday or Saturday. I know a lot of different communities celebrate this on different days. So just make sure you're slowing down in those residential areas. Anticipate the extra pedestrian traffic. The children often have a tendency to be excited and dart out from between parked cars and out into the street, focusing on maybe that next house where they may get that treat. So make sure that you do slow down, be watching for anytime you're around cars that are parked on the road for kids to kind of come out and jump out into the roadway. Minimize your distractions. This is not the time to obviously be distracted. So you don't want to be eating or on the phone or doing something that would distract you when you're around that critical time of the dusk to area when the kids are going to be out and about. And for parents, make sure the costumes are creative but safe. Make sure the masks don't obstruct your child's vision so that they can see, so that if they are out and about, they're looking at those cars and can see them and know when it's safe to cross the road. Try to use some reflective tape in the costume in some way. Make it ingenious, but also make it safe. And always plan your route and have a location to reunite if you should get separated from your child. So make sure they know where to go so that you can kind of get back together if they should get separated, especially in these times when there's lots of kids out and sometimes they have a tendency to wear the same costume. So make sure that you have a place where you can meet up if you guys get confused out there and you get separated. So the biggie though is just make sure you're slowing down, be safe, be cautious, be extra alert, because we want to make sure that they have a good experience.
One other thing, Frank, and then we'll get to the domestic violence issue. How much, if any, now of a concern about tainted treats? There was a big concern several years ago. It's been a while, but is it still a concern about checking the treats to make sure there isn't anything bad in them?
It always is a concern. I think there's been a lot of public service announcements and campaigns out there to kind of instruct parents on how to look for the opportunity for someone to have tainted something or put something in it. So we don't really see it a lot, but I know in some of the areas that we have some of our deputies working with the communities, we have places where they can come in and they can get it checked and kind of work with the deputies working their areas. But the big one is to, obviously the stuff that could be unwrapped, something that doesn't look like it's sealed properly are the big ones to look out for.
616-395-1450. I do have a call. Good morning. You're online with Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker.
Good morning. I have a question not about Halloween. Can I still ask it?
If it's public safety for Sheriff Baker, certainly can.
Well, my question is this. Some time ago, I heard in the news that there were several hundred tires dumped in the Allegan County woods, and I wondered if that had ever been resolved. What happened?
Yeah, I believe so. We worked with some state agencies on that because it was on state land. So we worked with, I believe, the Department of Natural Resources, and they did conduct an investigation into that. And I don't recall the exact outcome of it, but I think we were able to resolve that in a way that we were bringing some people to justice, if I recall correctly.
Do you think that the guilty parties were found?
I believe they were, but like I say, it's been a while. And I know we, like I say, worked with the state agencies that are responsible for that. But so I didn't really have much involvement in it. I don't necessarily believe our detectives were real involved. But as I recall, I believe if the one I'm thinking of is the one you're thinking of, that we did locate those individuals.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for the call. 616-395-1450. The month of October, among many things, is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It is certainly a scourge on our community. And the last 19 months with the COVID-19 outbreak, compelling people to stay home, stay safe, and safer at home has unfortunately had a side effect of maybe escalating this problem more than perhaps it would have been if the outbreak had not occurred. To talk a little bit more about that, Sheriff Baker, you do have the prosecuting attorney for Allegan County, Myrene Koch, with you. And I'm going to throw the ball into your court, Sheriff, to talk a little bit about what is going on in Allegan County to try to address this issue of domestic violence and cut this down.
Yeah, Gary, you kind of really hit the nail on the head there. We did notice an increase in that. And it's one of the reasons that we work so closely with the prosecutor's office is because this is not just a law enforcement issue. It's not just a community issue. It's not just a prosecutor's issue. It's not just the resources that are available to victims problem. It's all of our problem. It's a huge community issue that we need to work together on. So we work very closely with our prosecutor's office, which is why I asked our prosecutor to join me today, because I think it's important that that the community know and understand that that we're on the same page with this issue. We work very close and we look to try to find solutions to this problem. One of the things for us is, as law enforcement, on the law enforcement side of it, is we receive often the initial call of a complaint of a domestic violence situation, either from the victim or maybe from a family member, or oftentimes it's from a neighbor that hears the screaming, the yelling. So we end up going out there to investigate. Last year alone, we investigated almost 600 cases of domestic violence. So you can see this is a significant issue. And I'm going to turn the camera over to the prosecutor to tell you a little bit about the number of cases that the prosecutor's office handles, because while we handle just the incidents of domestic violence that's assigned to the sheriff's office that we investigate, they handle all of it throughout the county, whether it's the state police, the tribal police, whether it's the local police agencies. They receive all of those complaints and investigations to make a decision on on whether to press charges. So their involvement's even greater than ours. So I'm going to let Myrene talk a little bit about that.
We certainly appreciate Myrene Koch joining us on WHTC's Talk of the Town. It's been a while since it was re-election time. And I'll let our audience know, I did leave a note with Myrene in the office. We'd like to have you on a little bit more often, too, to discuss things, because we do have the Ottawa County Prosecutor's Office from time to time. We certainly would love to have the Allegan County office join us as well. But this is a serious subject, and it's not an easy thing to discuss, because we want to have happy homes. And when domestic violence cases come around, we don't have happy homes.
That's true. Good morning, Gary. And I would love to be on your show more. Just go ahead and contact me and we can set those things up. What we've seen in the Allegan County Prosecutor's Office is a steady increase in domestic violence since the year 2014. But with the pandemic, as you mentioned, and the stay-at-home orders, and now what we're seeing with quarantines, families are forced more to be at home without any outlet for any other type of interaction with others. And so we have seen a very steady increase in domestic violence. One of the goals that we have in Allegan County is we work closely, as Sheriff Baker said, with law enforcement, but we also want to make sure we're educating the community, because our goal is not to take families apart, it's to educate those so that the children and the families learn that the victims don't need to acquiesce to this kind of behavior, and the perpetrators need to understand there's a different route to take other than resorting to violence. And if we can educate on those issues from the very young all the way through the older groups, hopefully we can start to make a difference with regard to the numbers we're seeing in domestic violence.
Now, the thing is, Myrene, it is what makes it so tough is a lot of times there might be an incident and there's enough evidence. There's enough evidence that charges could be forthcoming, but sometimes one is stymied because the victim, for a lot of reasons, don't want to press charges. How do you get across that sometimes tough barrier to cross?
You know, that can be very difficult. Victims often don't want to press charges. They don't want to have the consequences that may come along with that. But in the law, it's not actually the victim that presses the charges. It's the prosecutor's office. And we do that based on probable cause. We still need those victims to cooperate, but we also try to look for evidence-based prosecution. Can we prove it other ways? Are there witnesses? Are there 911 calls? Are there statements that were made by the parties? Those are ways that we can try to still prosecute the case. With the pandemic, one of the things that we've seen is the delay, because the courts have been shut down due to the pandemic, has been extremely difficult on victims of domestic violence. It's difficult for them to put everything on hold while these cases are pending.
616-395-1450. If you have a question right now, we're chatting with Allegan County Prosecuting Attorney Myrene Koch. Good morning. We'll get a call a little bit again. If you have a question for Myrene, we'll be happy to take it at 616-395-1450. One concern, and maybe I'm using my imagination, Myrene, more than anything else, maybe why there might be some hesitancy, if not to press charges, or maybe more than anything else, to try to bring the matter to law enforcement and eventually to your office and to the courts, is the fact that what happens if one decides to pursue this and the perpetrator still has the opportunity to get at the victim in possible retribution? That scenario could be a case of, I don't want to report it because if I do, I might get it worse even in the future, because the guy might be able, or the woman might be able to get away in the situation.
We do see that happening quite a bit, and we've seen several occurrences of witness intimidation within the last few months, even, where perpetrators are trying to intimidate the victim not to participate or to come to court. Again, our goal is to make sure that we can get some intervention for the family, whether it's probation, counseling, or something else, so we can break the cycle of abuse and it doesn't continue.
Now, one other tool, and Myrene, straighten me out if I'm going the wrong direction on this. One tool that will help, but sometimes it's only as good as the paper it's written on: personal protection orders. It's one thing to be able to get one on another. It's another to make sure it's effective to keep the sides apart so that people are safe in this situation.
We do recommend getting a personal protection order, but if our office does authorize charges, we typically also have what's called a protective condition of bond. It's similar to a PPO, but it's a bond condition. That means the perpetrator cannot have any contact with the victim, and if they do, their bond could be revoked and they could be held in the Allegan County Jail until the case is completed. So we recommend both safeguards for victims. They have separate consequences, and oftentimes having more than one consequence often helps alleviate some of those concerns.
616-395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with Prosecutor Myrene Koch.
Yes, good morning. I'd like to say that I think that they have dropped the ball a little bit on this, because I know somebody personally that got one of those personal protective orders on a domestic situation, and those people were still in contact with each other. After that, they've had more situations, and I've actually called a few times, and they've never been able to really get the guy into custody or to make the case known that they were not supposed to be around each other until they went back to court. I just like to, that's all I really have to say. I feel really bad because the person that I know is emotionally involved with this person, and it just hasn't been taken care of. Thank you.
Appreciate the call, and thank you very much. And that, unfortunately, Sheriff Frank Baker, is not uncommon. I'm sorry to say, it's not uncommon.
It's not, Gary. One of the things that we do is we work very close with not only the prosecutor's office, but also Sylvia's Place, our domestic violence shelter. We want to provide the resources to those victims to help them understand that they do have support, they do have resources. We want to make sure that we're in their corner for them, because you're right. There's times when even though, they may have initially got that personal protection order, they may then start having contact with people. But when we do become aware of it, we try to work extra hard with that victim to make sure that they're still safe and secure in wherever they're staying. But that does happen. That's for sure. And it's one of the things that's unfortunate, but oftentimes we end up in the situation where sometimes they do try to get back together, and we do find out about it. We have contact, maybe somebody else calls us or something, and we'll actually, make an arrest in those situations. So that what we don't like is when people use those personal protection orders as a tool. When they get along, they want to be in the same house and they want to be together. But then when they have an argument, they want to call us and have us arrest somebody for a violation. So that's not a tool for them in that way. It's a tool for the criminal justice system to protect them. And we don't like it when it gets abused. And we also, like I say, are very sympathetic to those victims that find themselves in that situation. So we want to be able to help them in any way we can.
Frank, we've been talking about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I see with our Zoom connection, you are adorning violet, purple.
Yes. Myrene and I are both wearing our purple today. I know this is a radio interview, so I guess we'll have to just imagine that you can see that we both have our
I will
violet
say
colors
this.
on.
I will say this very quickly. We are recording the Zoom interview, and we will make this Zoom video available on our webpage at WHTC.com a little bit later on. So they'll be able to see it a little bit later on. But tell us a little bit about today being the Wear Purple Day today.
Yeah, today is October 7th. Was designated as a Wear Purple Day today. So that's what we're doing here. Like I was mentioning earlier, we work with Sylvia's Place, our domestic violence shelter, and they provide counseling and services to victims of domestic violence. So we want to support them. And so today, both Myrene and myself are wearing purple, and we want to show our support, but also for the community that we just want to, if you do want to help support Sylvia's Place, October 14th is their fall festival. It's going to be conducted virtually. So if you go to their website, their Facebook page, you'll find the details on how you can assist them in providing the resources for victims of domestic violence. It's their annual fundraiser, so it is a big deal. And they obviously need the support that they get from the community, and to help them do the things that they do, because while we all have a role to play, ours is obviously the law enforcement side and in the arrest, and Myrene's is the prosecution. But the victims need resources beyond what we can provide. Myrene does have a victims advocate that works with them initially, but sometimes it's a little more long-term, the resources and support they need. So we do encourage everyone to help support Sylvia's Place, and to be supporters of this in our community, because it is a community issue and it's something that we all need to work together on.
Indeed. I wish we had more time to discuss this. There are some other aspects of the domestic violence issue that probably need to have some light shed on, not only with dealing with victims' rights, dealing with making sure that situations don't get exacerbated in the prosecuting of the thing, and also dealing with the fact that it is not just male v. female, with the male being the perpetrator. It could also work the other way around, not just physical violence, but also intimidation and threats that could possibly be. There is a wide spectrum of issues involving domestic violence. Unfortunately, our time is somewhat limited, and I wish we had more time. Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker, Allegan County Prosecuting Attorney Myrene Koch, it is always a pleasure to chat with both of you. We look forward to having more conversations, hopefully on happier matters than dealing with domestic violence. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us today on Talk of the Town.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you very much. Frank Baker and Myrene Koch on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. Coming up on the WHTC Talk of the Town program,